Hi friends, welcome back to 5 Minute Modern. My name is Cindy, and today we're finishing our series on Picasso by taking a look at his final and longest artistic phase, the Mediterranean period. During the years of relative confinement under Nazi occupation, Picasso had sorely missed his time at the beach, often a source of inspiration in his work. So in 1946, with the war behind him, Picasso and his lover François Gillot moved to a small town on the southern French coast called Vallauris. Vallauris had been a ceramics manufacturing town since the time of the Roman Empire, and at the encouragement of friends, Picasso began experimenting with ceramics. So far, we've only discussed Picasso's work as a painter, but he was actually a prolific sculptor throughout his career, with his earliest sculptures produced during the Rose period. During the war years, Picasso was obliged to stop making sculptures to comply with wartime rations of metals. But as he began experimenting with ceramics, his interest in sculpture was reignited, and he began work on some of his most highly regarded sculptures. Picasso also continued painting. In 1951, he made his third and final anti-war painting, Massacre in Korea. The painting shows American soldiers firing on unarmed women and children. This may have been a reference to the No-Gun Rhee massacre of the previous year, in which U.S. troops fired on unarmed Korean civilians, or perhaps it was a protest against U.S. intervention in Korea more broadly. Though Picasso officially joined the Communist Party following World War II, many historians suggest that he was motivated more by a desire to belong to a club that included many of the left-wing artists and writers in his circle than by a genuinely strong belief in communism. Massacre in Korea would be his final political painting. For the rest of his career, he returned to his favorite subject, the people in his life. Picasso had 4 children by that time. His son Pablo was mothered by his first wife, Olga Koklova. Marie-Thérèse Walter mothered his daughter Maya. And with François Gillot, he had 2 children, Claude and Paloma. Like much in his life, Picasso's relationship with his children was complicated. In 1953, having had enough of Picasso, François Gillot took her 2 children with her and left for Paris. Gillot would later write a famous memoir of her life with Picasso, which enraged the artist enough to cut off contact with Gillot and their 2 children. As an aside, Gillot would go on to marry Jonas Salk, inventor of the polio vaccine. Asked how it was that she had been with 2 of the most famous men of her century, Gillot replied, "Lions mate with lions." Picasso had already met his next and final lover as his relationship with Gillot was coming to an end. Months before his final split with Gillot, Picasso was struck by the beauty of a 26-year-old salesgirl in the shop that sold his ceramics, a woman named Jacqueline Roque. Roque and Picasso began seeing each other. Picasso's biographer John Richardson describes Roque as a free spirit outside of the relationship, but Richardson claims that when it came to Picasso, Roque was profoundly submissive, practically intent on martyrdom. Picasso, for his part, painted Roque more than anyone else in his life, and his paintings of her define the Mediterranean period. His portraits of Roque typically show her with large, loving eyes and a doubled or divided face, perhaps an attempt to portray a dualistic personality. Picasso's portraits of his previous paramours were always one-sided, reducing them to sexualized objects, vessels for his own grief, or vengeful monsters. It's only in his portraits of Roque that we see a complex personality, no less strikingly beautiful for her complexities. Still, Picasso could certainly weaponize his art against Roque when he wished. Knowing that she was insecure about her short neck, he would lengthen or shorten it in his portraits to flatter or insult her as suited his mood. In 1955, Picasso's first wife, Olga Koklova, died. Though Picasso and Koklova had been estranged for decades, he had never formally divorced her since he was unwilling to split his paintings equally with her, as would have been required by French law. Following Koklova's death, Picasso married Jacqueline Roque in 1961, making her his second wife. They would stay married until the time of Picasso's death in 1973 at the age of 91. Despondent over the loss of Picasso, Roque would go on to take her own life in 1986. Thanks so much for joining me on this one. I hope that you've enjoyed this series on Picasso, and I hope that you've learned something new. Please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.